staff. Very important parts of this meeting. Before we start the proceedings, I need to go through the chair's statement. I remind councillors that the public section of this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the Bay of Plenty Regional Council website following the meeting and archived for a period of 3 years as noted on page 4 of the agenda. To those members of the public here today, all care will be taken to protect your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it's understood your consent is given if your image is inadvertently broadcast. I also remind all present, is it my crystal working? I also remind all present that local government decision making affords no protection to councillors, council officers and the public for comments made during the meeting that are subsequently challenged in the court of law and determined to be slanderous. But that's got that bit out of the way. Can I just say that we've got Councillor Crosby coming in by Zoom? Not yet, okay, and Councillor Thurston is also coming, and Councillor Crosby, of course, is an accredited member of this meeting. So we have apologies from Chairman Leader, from Councillor Von Daddleson, and non-members, Councillor Brunning and Thompson. Public forum, there's none advised. Items not on the agenda, none advised. Order of business, can you note that there will be a change in the order of business? Following the items in the appropriate agenda, there will be arranged a comment in the external presenters from Audit New Zealand. Items 8.2 and 8.3 will be considered after morning tea at 10:45. Okay.
I'll second that.
Right, I move the apologies be accepted, seconded by Mr. Robertson. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. Declarations of conflicts of interest.
Yes, could I update you please, David?
Yes.
Relevant to the committee, since we last met, I had been approached by the commissioners at Tauranga City to essentially resume the role I had at Tauranga City on their risk committee. A couple of key points. It's now a larger committee in that it is a strategic finance and risk committee. And in this case, I'm merely an independent member. I'm not the chair. In the past, we've cleared the fact that I had interests through professional interests by chairing the old finance and risk committee. I think we've got the same situation now, and obviously any matter that comes before either the region or indeed my responsibilities at Tauranga, I'll inform you folk and we'll work out an appropriate way through. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Bruce. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's important we're all trying to work as closely in cooperation with the Tauranga City Council. And I think having you as an external advisor to both is, whilst I can see there's a minor problem with conflict of interest, I think the benefit we all get from that is far greater, and therefore I welcome the fact that you're working with them. Any other conflicts of interest? No. Public excluded business for transfers to anyone. There are no matters. Right, we're on to previous minutes, which is page 10 of the agenda.
So move.
Moved for acceptance by Councillor Clark, seconded. Second, Mr. Robertson. All those in favour of accepting, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Any matters arising? I have none. No matters arising. Thank you. Right. So we're straight on to the internal audit update and audit plan. Welcome as usual to Steve and Aaron, the mighty duo.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Good morning, councillors. I'll take the report as read. The audit plan for the next 3 years. We put that together as a risk-based plan. It got a balance of strategic and operational risk. It's drawn from the Key Risk Register, from feedback from councillors during previous meetings and from discussions with the leadership team. We do intend to revise it once the LTP has been finalised, and we note that there is some capacity for internal advisory services for us to work with the management team as well. In terms of the internal work plan, that's on track for the year. We're currently wrapping up the policy framework review, the consent audit's underway, and the IT security review is also underway.
Okay, right, I'm going to open it up for questions and comment, but can I first comment straight away? If we go to page 17, I'm delighted to see the progress we've been made in completing so many of the outstanding work areas which are your responsibility. So well done for that, and all I can say is keep it up. Right, questions and comments?
Hey Aaron, how are you? Just a couple of matters really about the core parts of the report. Look, just to confirm, I wrote down key on my notes here, particularly the fact that your reorient program of NEPA once the LTP is finalised, that I was mentioning before to me, that's really important. I look at some of the good stuff you're doing, particularly around one of the strategic risk reviews that you've done and we're reporting on and discussing later. I think that's really valuable. So I look forward to that. And Chair, I don't know whether we see the results of that, but somebody on the track, Aaron, I think it would be good that the committee was aware of it. The ICT security one, we've got a paper on that, that's cool. What I would like to say is obviously Waikato DHB dribbles off every risk committee member's lips at the moment. And we've received a level of, a good level of assurance from Matt in the course of between meetings. Are there aspects of that or learnings from that you have been able to put into this IT security review? I'm not asking what they are, but have you been able to take into account potentially the learnings? Because it will be relevant. For the review if we do that.
Can I just say that obviously we're going to have a full discussion of that on the item itself when it comes up in the agenda. However, if Aaron, you've got any comments you can make, remembering of course that we will be discussing it later, so there's no need for you to go into vast detail or any more detail than you think you have.
Can I just interrupt? It's a process question I'm asking, by the way, not a result question. The process is, have we been able to take into account some of the learnings out of that with the work that you're currently doing?
We can do that as part of the work. The review itself is working through the NZISM, the New Zealand Information Security Manual. Now that is sledgehammer brick or walnut type of review, but what we're going to do is figure out from this big vast number of about 1,600 odd controls what's appropriate practice for this organisation.
Yeah.
Once we identify appropriate practice, then look at how we stack up on that. It is taking time to do, but it will result in a good body of work that will help the team.
Sweet. Just a couple of other clarification questions. I'm sorry to speak, I asked this last time. In the conflicts of interest study that you're doing, is that just, sorry, who does that cover? Does it cover staff as well as also elected members?
Yes, so that was looking at both staff and elected members, and when we did the review, we noted that the elected members' controls are really good in that respect, and there were some areas in terms of the staff that we had some recommendations over.
So we've got recommendations shown, which is fine. One of the things that interested me was the let's say the tack on. That's the wrong way to put it, but the health and safety continuous improvement work program. Were there any particular risks in those recommendations we should be aware of?
In the sense of the health and safety?
Yes, exactly.
So in terms of the continuous improvement work program of health and safety, so we will come into the next committee talking about that in quite a lot of detail.
Right.
But yeah, there was recommendations in terms of how we manage and document our critical risks, and so that program's been ongoing for the past, I guess, year to get that really tight. So yeah, we will be bringing that to the next meeting to discuss what we've done in that place.
Brilliant. No, that's fine. That'll be great. Thank you. But I had some questions about the program, but I don't know at the stage we're at here.
Quite content that you raised them now.
Oh, okay, radio. Love the fact that we've got a program, well done, guys. Seriously, it's really it's really valuable. So just a couple of questions. And it's interesting. I was trying to think about what is the electoral cycle. I know this might seem odd, but I'll hopefully come back to my point pretty quickly. An electoral cycle for the region, and actually what would be useful for us to have assurance on going into the new training. And I was thinking the best thing that this committee could do, and because obviously it goes out of business once the training is got to an end, is to reflect the maturity of the risk management we've got today. And I noticed number 8 there, if I've got this correct, which is risk management. It's a framework review to assess the adequacy and effectiveness of risk management framework, etc. Now that's out after the triennium, and I would wonder whether there was value that being done prior to the triennium, so that when the council gets to decide what committee's its approach going forward, it would have a current assessment rather than an old assessment. So I would just like to suggest, David, that be considered as having a different planning priority rather than anything else.
Yeah, no, we would certainly consider that. The reason the plan is in draft is to get that feedback so we can adjust if there are areas that you would like to move up, and so we would definitely look at moving up. So
I realise that's why you're getting my input now. So there we go. A couple other ones here, just quickly. Lab services. What's a non-community laboratory?
The laboratory does its statutory requirements as part of the work program. It also provides additional commercial services when it has free capacity. So it's just figuring out for that part of the laboratory work, is it being realised appropriate, like costed right? Is it taking up too much, not regulatory time, that sort of stuff?
Yeah. Can I endorse the next one, number 10, which is the post-COVID funding readiness? I thought that was a really good study. So I really endorse that one, David. It makes a lot of sense. Can I just ask, with the CDM Administrative Authority on number 13, will you be assessing the effectiveness or the adherence to the joint agreement between the local authorities?
We haven't scoped these audits yet, so as part of the scoping, we will look at.
Put that in there.
Yeah, we'll look at
I've got all the stuff done tomorrow here, guys. So because it's such a good program, I really want to keep saying that. And look, perhaps, and it's later on, although actually it's on for this year, the compliance processes interests me. I take it from the reading that that's the compliance into our regulatory responsibilities around consent monitoring. And it would interest me to think not just about do we monitor, but the way in which we do it, and how we are potentially agile to working through try and identify catchment issues. And the likes. In other words, it's not, I'm assuming, and I've seen it elsewhere, where you just, the consent conditions are just followed through on some sort of basis. I'm wanting to work out whether it's risk related in terms of the way that we monitor and how we deal with that. The other hint here is that obviously I'm always interested because regulatory is a difficult proposition for any council. It is slightly the stick. It's compliance, it's not incentives, and how do we go about that? We want to be customer facing, whatever NAF words are that we want to use, but how do we deal with that aspect of being a fair and effective, but also customer friendly consent monitoring? So that's what I'd like to say.
I still talk about number 13 there, or 12.
Oh, sorry, that was 13.
Was that 12?
No. Sorry, my mistake. It's number 17. Compliance process. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, sorry, I should have checked where I'm going. I was trying to make sure I didn't dominate too much. Sorry about that, Dave. Number 17. So that's the compliance work, which is a review coming up into the area of compliance monitoring in terms of consent. It's a really important area for us.
Okay, and in regard to 13 itself, of course, the Civil Defence Organisation, in fact, is administered by us, but it in fact reports directly to NEMA in Wellington. And therefore, we have to be quite careful in our work in that particular area. I make no other comment than that. Bruce, any further comments?
Look, I just probably my final comment, but to check you up consider this, so be pleased, is the real importance of number 23. I mean, this is a seminal piece of work I would have thought for us, David, as a committee and actually as a council, where we're essentially examining the future of work and strategic risks. So I just wanted to endorse that. I'm not entirely certain of the full scope, but I make some assumption that when we get to that piece of work, admittedly it's a year out, and we will know a bit more about the future of local government, but we will be thinking about that as well as also the way in which we do our work. Brilliant. Thank you for that, David. You've been very kind to let me have a few of those questions out there, but that's great piece of work on the whole.
In fact, that's why we implore you to come along and hold our hand, in fact, Bruce. I would say in relation to 23, the future of work, I think we have to all accept that we are in a rapidly changing environment, and that's something which all the staff need to take into account. And indeed, it's nice to have somebody who can hold our feet to the fire in that particular way. Right, so...
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I'd like to ask a question then.
if you can.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
No problems. No, you've detailed everything very well. I'm just want to reflect on number 3, the Māori responsive framework. And it's good to see the detail behind what you'll be looking at, because, the treaty and other matters are certainly being raised significantly now. I note that it's out to 2023-24 before you do that. The reason for that, is it just another follow-on to the issue around the triennium, a new triennium? Is that the reason, or why can't it be done sooner?
Again, there's no, it was staggered in terms of a work program over the 3 years in terms of resourcing. And so we made those judgments in terms of when they would take place. But obviously coming to this committee is to get the feedback in terms of whether we need to look at adjusting those in terms of timeframes.
Yeah, I'm just mindful of the prominence it's getting now with the change in legislation and the requirements in the context of the treaties being talked about a lot more now in the conversation.
Yeah, I would agree with you entirely on that one, Titeru. And I think we ought to re-examine the place that has it in your priorities. It may mean changing the priority of something else, but I think as Councillor White said, there is so much change going on and so much change going on in this area at the moment that we really need to make sure we are keeping on top of it. So I'd be grateful if you would examine that in conjunction with the staff and take our suggestion forward.
We will certainly do that. We'll certainly look at the 2 suggestions in terms of moving things up in the timeframe, and then how we can adjust the program to take into account that feedback.
Any other questions on the work program? Right. Therefore, on to the where are we now?
Just a brief update on the audit actions.
That's right. Audit work plan.
So the audit work plan is underway. The policy framework field work is wrapping up. The consent audit is underway, and the IT security audit is underway. The audit actions that are outstanding, progress continues to be made to complete them. The grants audit, there's a number of outstanding actions there relating to technology solution that's expected to be in place around the start of July, and that will largely address all of those actions. The asset management actions were contingent on the asset management policy and the strategic asset management plan being completed, which they have, and so now the rest of those actions can fall off. And then conflicts of interest, the updated standard operating procedure has just gone live on the new intranet, so that's underway. And then the other ones are falling through.
Well,
It's falling underway.
any further questions or comments? Right, in that case, could somebody like to move the recommendations on page 15, moved by Councillor White, seconded. Robertson, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye, right. Just a reminder that item 8.2 will be taken at 10:45, so we're now on to page 111. Agenda item 8.4, which is the chairperson's report, which our CFO kindly does on my behalf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to the committee. So the standard report this time is the forward-looking and backward-looking appendix for the committee for the work programme, and provides information there about our upcoming meetings and the current agenda items that we've got attached. Of course, anything that comes out of this meeting that adds to that agenda will just be added to the work programme for future reference for the committee. So nothing else to say, Mr. Chairman.
Questions or comments? Councillor White.
Mr. Chair, just for a matter of clarification, when you talk about, it's probably a very basic question, when you talk about procedural matters, how's that, where's the boundary between procedural and non-procedural?
Generally speaking, through you, Mr. Chairman, is some items of procedural matters, like our rates resolution, for instance, has to happen in a certain sequence because of other procedures that happen within council. So the rates resolution needs to come to this committee at this meeting as a procedural matter because it is going to council on the 24th of June. So we have some procedural matters which happen in sequence in a certain order, and you're just following a certain procedure. Still has to go through a certain process, but the procedure dictates when that process happens.
My reason for asking that, of course, with the implications for Māori community, has always noted that it's a procedural matter.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Chairman, sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is a matter of just process. If you're approving the appointment of someone to a community board or a body, for instance, that might just be a procedural matter to be considered by the committee.
Further questions or comments? Now, in that case, would somebody like to move the recommendation on page 111?
So I'll move it there.
I'll take Councillor Clark. Councillor White.
Delegate, I'd say, that would be your appointment.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Right, accepted. Right, fantastic. So we're now on to page 116, item 8.5, which is setting of rates, and over to General Manager Corporate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll hand over to Debbie, who will present this item.
Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, councillors and Mr. Robertson and Matt. Your pleasure today to present our proposed rate setting paper for full council, which is coming up on the 24th of June. As Matt has articulated, this is a procedural matter for us to come here to Risk and Assurance to provide an opportunity for you to consider the proposed council report for setting the rates for 21-22. Just take the report as read, but just draw out that the Simpson Grierson, our legal advisors on this particular paper, have provided minor review comments. A couple of changes that I just wanted to draw to your attention. We do tend to use a consistent template for our rate setting. But just a couple of points. We are introducing and setting a new rate for the regional rescue and safety services. So you'll see that there's a new section in the rate setting around that. We have strengthened some of the language around the differential rates that we've included. And obviously our uniform rates, our policy is up to the 30% maximum limit there. In respect to the funding impact statement, that particular section is part of our actual LTP document. Going forward into the LTP adoption, we've made a minor change and we are presenting the FIS inclusive of GST for the next long-term plan. And that helps it to be easily reconciled with the actual council report for setting rates. So previously the FIS was exclusive of GST and we've simply done it inclusive of GST. So just to reconfirm, Simpson Grierson's comments on this particular proposed report, the council were minor. So I'm really confident and hopefully you have the assurance that procedurally it's belts and braces as always. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Debbie. I just want to refer you to the executive summary, the third point, which states that there is a possibility that some TLAs who collect regional rates on behalf of the council may need to delay. So how does that affect us in making this recommendation today?
So we have noted on page 119 of your agenda under section 4.1.1 that Kawerau District Council, Tauranga City Council and Whakatane District Council are likely to adopt their LTP and to set their rates in July. So consistent with the procedure that we followed last year, we'll need to come back to council on the 12th of August for the meeting to sort of adjust any of the policy framework to align to the TLA policies for year 1 of the long-term plan. For year 2 of the long-term plan, we're proposing to insource our rates and to develop our own rates policies.
So again, there will be a second step in terms of the procedure.
If the TLA dates for penalties and so on are different to the way we set them on the 24th of June.
So there are no legal implications for us.
The legal implication is another sort of step in the process where we'll circle back to the 12th of August council meeting and provide updated information in respect of our rates policies if they're different from the TLAs because of the late adoptions.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, please, Deborah, just about the inconsistencies in the rate of penalties. I've noticed that most of the TLAs around the Bay are doing 10% if you're out of due time, but Kawerau is only doing 5% on penalty. How does that reflect, I suppose, the overview that if I were paying my rates late in Western Bay and get whacked 10% and my cousin Kawerau was only getting whacked 5%, does that create, it just seems a bit anomalous that there's not standardisation across the Bay in that. I mean, I guess I'm just seeking a bit of clarification if you're able to offer it.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, obviously we adopt the policies consistent with the different TLAs in the district, the 7 TLAs. So until we have our own policy, we develop our own policy, then those inconsistencies continue to be relevant to those districts, really.
But yes, Councillor Stokes.
Yeah, no, just wanted to ask a question in regards to the lateness of certain TLAs adopting your LTPs. Will that have any financial risk to this council going forward into the 21-22 annual year or year 1?
I think we do quite a lot of work with the TLAs to maintain the strategic alignment. I don't believe there's any financial risks in by a 2-week sort of time delay. I don't believe so.
No, I think that's probably correct. It's something we have to bear in mind, but I think we're all over it.
Yeah. Probably the one area is obviously the RLTP, that is a regional plan, but otherwise we're aligned with the RLTP.
Did you want to comment?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman. So it is one of the procedural changes that we need to make, as Debbie said, in coming back to council in August if there is any change. We're expecting that the territorial authorities in adopting their long-term plan are very conscious of cash flow and setting their long-term plans in order to be able to set rates early enough to meet their timelines for collecting cash in the same way they would if they had adopted by the end of June. So I think the financial implications are much less than the procedural implications of us having to set a legal rate by coming back in August to you if there are any changes to this. And it may well be there are other councils other than these ones who also don't meet the due deadline. The only deadline we can control is our own, and we will be watching closely. And I had an email from Rotorua Lakes Council just today around a potential change to a remissions policy that they're taking up to their council, which we didn't know about until the email came through this morning. So we are working to a certain extent with the information we're provided. We will adopt on the 24th and bring back to you a procedure report if we need to in August to either reset the resolution or change penalty dates or instalment dates or anything else.
And that can wait until the August meeting?
Yes, and through you, Mr. Chairman, as long as it's done before the instalment, the assessment's done on the instalments. If August is probably as late as you'd want to be because it then starts to interfere in the collection process. But generally speaking, we think August, the 12th of August, if we need an urgent council meeting, prior to that, we'll talk to our legal advisors around that. But at the moment, we think the August meeting should cover it.
And if we're talking about remissions, will that have any effect on the amount of revenue we gather?
Potentially, as I said, the email came through today relating to one particular council's remission policy. How that would implicate revenue for the regional council, we'd have to wait and see.
Okay, I think as Chair of Risk and Assurance, I'd like to take that outside the meeting as a matter of urgency and discuss it with you in the next few weeks, if you like.
Sure.
Right, okay.
I recall obviously that at a previous council meeting, we moved a resolution that we will be collecting our own regional council rates. When does that come into play?
So through you, Chair, it's intended to go live 1 July 2022. And the work, you'll note that Annabelle Chappell's report to a previous council meeting indicated there will be a workshop with all councillors around developing the new rates policies from 1 July 2022. And the intention would be that council would consult through its annual plan, the 22-23, on that new policy for consultation.
Thank you, Debbie.
And in regard to that, are we getting much pushback from the TLAs?
So through Mr. Chairman, we've been going around meeting the territorial authorities and their rates teams and their CFOs, and they've been very constructive and very helpful. So they're looking to provide us with the information that we need in order to collect our own rates, and the meetings that we've had to date have been very constructive.
Okay, thank you for that. Further questions or comments? In that case, can somebody move the recommendations on page 116? Councillor White, seconded Councillor Clark. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Right, how are we doing?
30 minutes of you.
We're 30 minutes ahead of time at the moment, so where are we?
So we'll go to public excluded, Mr. Chairman, and do the IRD risk review, I suggest.
Okay, yes. Right, so therefore I move that we go into public excluded, seconded. Councillor White, all those in favour say aye. Thank you very much. A warm welcome to Leon and Anton, as usual. I have to say, it's nice to have a good working relationship with our auditors. I think it's in both our interests that we do so, and long may it continue. So just as a matter of procedure, what we're doing, we need to cover items 8.2 and 8.3, which we need to go out of public excluded. Therefore, I move that we go out of public excluded, seconded by Councillor White. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Right. Debbie, over to you to, I think, is it 8.2? Are you leading on that, or is it that?
Thank you. So can I please refer you to page 39 of your agenda? I'll take the report as read. This particular report is in relation to the upcoming external audit for the financial year ending 30th of June 2021, and it relates to Bay of the Regional Council and the Council Group. I will do a quick handover to Leon to talk you through the proposed audit plan and also to talk you through the proposed audit fees for the next 2 years. Thank you, Leon.
And Leon, I will be going back into public excluded at the end of this, so you can make any further comments you may wish to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Debbie. Debbie's done a great job on this report, accompanying my audit plan, so I have nothing further to add, actually. I take the report as read, and I take my audit plan as read, and rather I'll answer any queries you may have instead of taking you through it in detail. But I do commend Debbie for the summary of what's in my audit plan, because it's one of the best I've seen. Thanks, Debbie. Then I do refer you in my audit plan, we talk about audit timings, and I will be amiss if I don't tell you that there's an auditor shortage across the world. We usually import auditors from across the world, including, well, quite a lot from South Africa, and quite a bit from UK, United States, and Asia as well. Unfortunately, with the borders closed, we can't get any in. And so there's a real shortage which causes us concern. of when we're going to be able to complete audits. So we've spoken to the Auditor General as well, and we compiled what we call a priority framework of what audits need to be done urgently. And just as far as your LTP audit is concerned, it's going well. We will sign that by the 24th of June, so that's not at risk at all. But then for 30 June 2021 audits, we had to look at which ones are really priority, and obviously financial statements of government, because ratepayers and residents in New Zealand need to know that their money is spent wisely. And then we have to focus on anything that goes on the NZX, because that can impact on the financial markets. So those are the main priorities. Then of course the rest follows. What that means for Bay of Plenty Regional Council, at this stage, fully resourced, and we put in a full team with as much as possible continuity. Unfortunately, we lose some staff, so someone you got used to over the last year or so may not be at the final order. But we've got a full resourcing, which is Anton's job, thank heavens, because I don't think I can do it, for the final audit at this stage. But there is a risk that if, any high priority entity for financial statements of government or the NZX reporting entities need audits done, we will have to provide our staff to those audits. So we are now resourcing on a national basis, not just a regional basis, which worked really well for us because the Hamilton and Tauranga offices are really well known for their good culture and work ethic. But other offices, sorry, I should be careful what I say, not reflecting anything about the other offices. It's just that there are probably more opportunities in Wellington and Auckland for our staff to go work for someone else. And so they've got quite a bit of shortage. Long story short, and at this stage, we are comfortable we'll be able to complete your audit before the end of October, which is your statutory deadline. In actual fact, we're resourcing according to this audit plan at the moment, because we've got Quayside coming in. I know Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand are talking to the FMA about moving statutory deadlines for FMA entities. I've already spoken to Quayside, and we don't have the appetite to do that, because if we move that, you're going to have to move, and just so many moving parts. We need to sign whatever we can. So we're focusing on getting Quayside done by the end of August, 27th, I think is the date, and then right on to Bay of Plenty and sign you within the timeframes we've got here. But I have to flag the risk to you about that we won't be able to do your audit. No reflection on your staff or management.
Well, thank you for those comments, Leon. I have to say that it is what it is. You can't manufacture auditors out of nothing. I was quite rude about auditors last night.
You were very rude. That needs to be on the official record, I think, actually, by the way.
But it was a joke. But firstly, before I open up for comment, can I just thank you for the comments you made about Debbie and the work of all her team in providing you with the information you require. And as I say, it is my view always that we cooperate fully with you, and it's nice to see that we are doing so, and we're also putting in the quality of work which meets your absolute satisfaction. So well done, Debbie and team. Right, questions or comments?
Yes, I've got some, please, if that's okay. Perhaps it's firstly a question to Debbie. I'm always interested, clearly a key area of focus for Leon is assets, asset valuations and management. And we've got 3 of our 5 systems coming up for evaluation this year. I'm looking at page 48. I don't presume they will provide any challenge to us this year in terms of having them completed for both our purposes for preparing accounts and available for Leon.
No, I can give you an update. All of our valuations are either underway, and so too are the fair value assessments. And I have confirmation from Keysign that all their PPE valuations are also underway. And they've got special focus as well around their managed funds valuations, which are also underway because some of them have the 31 March balance date. So they're also getting some of that external assurance that's required to ensure a straight through process or an effective and efficient process for external audit. So that's and also in addition, Keysight have also met with the port and put through our overall expectations in respect of disclosures, etc.
Brilliant. Oh, that's good. Just as a matter, what are the lakes assets that we have? I should know that, but I don't.
Oh, we had things like Tikititi diversion, which we obviously have written off. We have buoys. Yeah, we've got OHELP. Yeah, so
thank you.
Thank you, PPE.
Leon, I want to ask just a sort of a slightly pointed question. Your hours, 1,300 last year, and you're looking at 850 now. You need to be 850 for your resourcing requirements, clearly. If we're going to get the audit done on time, what's the plan to bring it back to 850 and not 1,378?
I just consult my paper at the moment here.
Look, it's agenda page 65. It's your proposal letter.
Sorry, I wasn't really consulting my paper. Yeah, the problem is that I think in the past, we've pushed up the hours last year already to 850. And 2020 was a COVID year. So there's a lot of extra work that went in last year. In hindsight, was it really required? I'm not sure on all areas, but in quite a few areas here, which we don't expect for this year. To bring it back to 850, that's going to be a real challenge. Our problem is that the auditing standards just keep on evolving, and audit quality is critical. I think that's why so many people are leaving the profession, because of the audit quality pressures on auditors. So to get it back to 850, it's going to be a struggle, but it is something we have to aim for because we can't just keep on adding hours. So we're looking at different ways of working smarter. One of the things we're bringing in this year's thing is a platform called Audit Dashboard. So we're trying to reduce the number of emails sent backwards and forwards and information being missed and staying and buying an inbox, instead having it on a platform so that we're definitely trying to be more efficient.
I mean, I think what I'm trying to reflect really here, it's our mutual interest that it's 850 hours and not 1,300 because that's your resourcing and it's our deadline. So that becomes really, really important. I I've read through the schedules of responsibilities and what your response is going to be. I don't know what I did, but I did. I should know it by heart. Can I just sort of say that, again, very important that actually I think this year, this is the third audit in a row, isn't it? Last year's annual report and LTP, you must be sick and tired of us. So I think the point I want to reflect is I would sense that the driver is this is just efficient, we get it out. And yet some of the public sector stuff that you bring, the eyes that you bring to some of the public sector stuff, which should interest us as a committee, is really important. For instance, we've just gone through our fraud internal audit, and I'm assuming somebody on the track will catch up on that. But again, I would be very interested as a committee member to get your insights from that at the end of the audit. I appreciate that sometimes efficiency doesn't equate to thinking about easily some of the broader public sector points that are important to us. But what you say in that is taken with great weight by us. So I think a bit of a challenge within that 850 hours, be very keen to see some of those aspects brought to your reporting, open observations, whatever's the right way to do it, with us at the end of the audit as well. We've got just a bit of pressure on you, mate. Thank you.
No pressure, and but I agree with you because I've seen any good risk and assurance committee expect that that feedback. And what we do is across it, because I ordered 6 local authorities to look across the 6 and notice, are there anything that someone is doing really well that we can bring back to you? So we will do that. And one thing the comment I made to the chair before, while we were having a coffee, was, we've got these young guys working for us and they're really keen to be promoted. The only way they're getting promoted is if they shine. The only way they shine is they pick up something in an audit and say, wow, you guys have missed this. And so that causes us quite a bit of pain, of course, because they are very keen and sometimes they pick up things that's not really interesting. But we have picked up some interesting stuff. So Bruce, we will come back to you at the committee.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, David.
Further questions or comments? All right.
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful insight into the aspirations of young auditors.
Just through you, Chair, just drawing you to where we are in the process. Obviously, we've completed our first interim audit for the year ending 30th of June 2021. Just to note for the committee that we had no management letter points from the first interim. We're right now in the middle of the LPP final audit, and then the following week we go straight into the second interim on the year-end audit. And again, we're working hard to make sure we have a nice clean audit. Other than that, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor White.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just to make a comment in the context of pulling it back to 850 hours, and the comment made around the excellent work that staff are doing, Matt and Debbie and the team. That must certainly help a hell of a lot in terms of, creating the entry point for you, making it a lot easier in what you've got to do and helping to get to that 850. So if that's the case, certainly I want to add my congratulations to the staff.
Thank you, Councillor, and I agree. The problem is when you get efficiency on both sides, to push those hours down is going to be really hard. But I agree with you, and I think the relationship we've got with management and staff is a really robust relationship. So we're not friends. We get along very well, and we're friendly with each other, but if we have to have robust discussions where we can recommend something and management don't agree with that, they'll tell us. And I think that's exactly what you as a committee need, is some to know that management don't just go, okay, audit said this. Because I've seen that in a few places, and that is dangerous. We need those robust conversations. But you're right, it definitely helps. And that's why I think we're doing an efficient audit and we're getting the quality information we require.
Any further comments, questions?
Yeah, just on the Quayside Group auditing, I just note the comment that it's audited by the same appointed auditor. Was there some differences with Quayside in the context of auditors at all?
No, Councillor, no. So I'm the appointed auditor for Quayside as well, and I'm the audit manager.
Yeah.
I think we can receive the report now. So somebody, Councillor White, seconded.
Please.
Councillor Clark, sorry. Right, well, the recommendation is on page 39. All those in favour say aye. Carried. Right. 92, I'm told.
So just taking you back to the work that we completed in advance of the adoption of the long-term plan for consultation on the 18th of February. Obviously, that come with a unmodified audit opinion in respect of the consultation document. And Anton is going to just chat you through the formal report that Audit New Zealand prepared at that time. Thank you.
Yeah, and before you start, Anton, can I just refer everybody, and those people who haven't got the minutes, to the comment in the executive summary that the Council's quality review process was reflected in the high quality of the draft documents presented for audit. The Council produced a consultation document that fulfilled its primary purpose of providing an effective basis for public participation in decisions on the content of the LTP. The Council consultation document included all the major matters that we expected, provided provide preferred and alternative options to address these issues and encourage the community to provide feedback. Well, that's just what we've been saying before, but it's nice to see that I just wanted to publicly record it, that those comments have been made.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions? I take it we're all happy that, and therefore all we need to do is adopt the recommendations, or the recommendation on page 93 that we received the report, moved by Mr. Robertson, seconded by Councillor Clark. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Right. Where are we now? Right, so we concluded that particular part of public, so we're now moving back into public excluded. I move that we move into public excluded, seconded Councillor Clark. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried.